See, our nearest fire exits are at the back here, right behind us. We'll muster the eastern parking lot. The bathrooms, men are over to my right behind me, women are to the left. In the event, I guess we went over the emergency. AED is by the student lounge. So in the event we need the AED, we would head to the student lounge for a visit. All right, everyone have pot and water. Okay. Thank you all for coming today. So today we'll be talking about carbon capture technology, its uses, and where it is being used today. We have many experts here that will speak on it. They're way better than me, so they'll get into the details on that. Before we get going, I would like to share a letter here from my 9-year-old son. And it's just, here we are as a society, or he's 9 years old. Dear Dad, and this was been done on his own April 16, 2019. Dear Dad, if we don't stop littering, if we don't litter, we can save animals, plants, and the planet, and us. Treat them, the world, the way you treat your home. Think of the plants we eat. If we keep littering, we won't have them. If we keep littering, we won't have oxygen either. Think of the parks. If we keep littering, we won't have them anymore. Stuff we get from trees like paper will be gone if we keep littering. So please get my message. Sincerely, Eli. I just brought this up because when I was 9 years old, I tell you I was not writing letters to my dad about littering and the environment. But that's today's children. That's today's society. My son's not even an environmentalist. He's just something that's, since he was in preschool, you recycle, you don't litter. There's things we do that we taught our children that are just normal. So with that, the next generation is going to look at us and ask, what did you do? What did we do in this room today? What did we do to ensure the next generation has clean water, air, etc.? Our kids are going to look back at this crucial time, 2019, in and around this time, and judge us for what we've done or what we are going to do. That's how crucial we are in the time today. With that, I'd like to get going here and I'd like to introduce his workshop. Mr. Mayor Eric Ludwig for welcoming us to the city in Estevan. And yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure to bring greetings from the city of Estevan. I'd like to thank everyone for coming here this afternoon. Clean coal technology, I don't have to say, is very important to us. In our community, it's very important to me. I've had the privilege of working at the coal mine. I'm in my 43rd year, and I'm sure all of my brothers and sisters at SPC and the mines will attest to they're great jobs, great paying jobs, and we'd like to keep them going in our community and continue to expand on clean coal technology, of which we're so proud of. So we are continuing to push, not only for Unit 6, but especially for Shannon, to keep the clean coal technology moving forward. And we feel it's a very important, environmentally friendly part of keeping power going to all of our homes in this province. And we appreciate our MLAs here today. I'm sure she'll have a few words, Lori Carr. We appreciate the Sask Party government coming to the table and making this first unit possible, along with the federal government of the day. I believe, Lori, you've got about 1.5 billion involved, but of course each unit will successively get cheaper. And as the technologies improve, I think it's something that we can all benefit by, not only in our community and our province, but across the world. I think with all the coal that we have in the world, we can move forward in an environmentally and sustainable, friendly fashion. You look at China, they're building, I think, 1 or 2 coal plants a week. But I happened to be in Shanghai. I went to the Chamber of Commerce Stewart, and I opened the blinds one morning, and there's a power plant, and my God, I've never seen so much black smoke in my life. It was unbelievable, but that's part of the problem. Why some days you can't even drive a vehicle in Beijing because of the smog. But anyway, I digress. So I look forward to this opportunity, and I look forward to the presentations today, and I think it'll be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, I'd like to introduce someone who's helped actually get the agenda. All I did was write a letter. Corey Shannon with the International Boilermakers. He lives this and breathes this every day. What he does, he travels across the world, meets people, is selling the clean coal energy. Corey, without further ado, if you want to come up, give a few statements, and then we'll do your video. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Shannon. I'm with the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers. I'm a special assistant to the International President and the International Director for Climate Change Policy Solutions. A few years ago, what we wanted to do, we felt this was such an important subject that we thought we would create an advocacy educational piece. And I want to play for you a 15-minute video. We have two versions. But there's a special designated website for this, so you can see updates. We hold membership with the Global CCS Institute. Ron Mitchell is here, and he'll be coming up a little bit later on. And then Beth and Corwin from the local International CCS Knowledge Center will be educating us as well. So, just a few things. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing us and inviting us to hopefully bring more people together. We have to do a lot more of these things, and hopefully we can get much larger crowds. But nonetheless, it's very important that we all bring these thoughts together, because it's very important in these challenging times with climate change and how we feel there's far too many political divisions being created out of climate change and these types of technologies. We embrace all these technologies that will, of course, make the world a better place, better air, better water, better everything. There's a variety of different solutions, so we have to embrace all of them. But there's one technology, of course, that is more prominent than others, and it is taking a little bit of heat. But I can let you know that the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers are fully supportive of the Saskatchewan government, and they've taken huge risks to implement these technologies, and we're on your side. So anything that we can do to help you, please let us know. Try and spread this information rapidly, because it's something that we need. And like the video speaks for itself, but it's all about finding that sweet spot, and that sweet spot is fixing the climate issues that we have, but also preserving well-paid, meaningful jobs. If you object to that, if you object to the technology, then you object to the IPCC report. So that means that you disagree with some of the brightest scientists on this planet. We're saying that CCS is a pathway to correct the carbon dioxide emissions that we're currently throwing in the air globally. So this isn't a problem regionally or locally, this is a global problem. So we want to be part of that solution, and we really appreciate you coming in to share some of your perspectives. So, Beth?
Yeah. Do you want your presentation, or do I know you?
Can you go to beyond? Beth Hardy is the Vice President for the International CCS Knowledge Center in China, and she's taught me so much about carbon capture, as well as my good friend in the back, Ron Mitchell, who will be coming up next, and sharing us the global perspectives of CCS and the challenges that we go through, but we're moving full steam ahead. Thank you, Beth.
How long was that for?
Much time.
But actually, Corey Bruce, who was the engineer who helped build Foundry Dam, will actually be tag team with me on the presentation. So just to give you a background on what the International CCS Knowledge Center is. So we are a spin-off of Saskatchewan, and BHP, one of the world's largest mining companies in the world, saw the value in what was produced here in Saskatchewan and said, we need to share that with the world. So they gave $20 million over 5 years for us to share the lessons learned at Boundary Dam. So that's what we do. We're in our 3-year operations, and we work with the Boilermakers and others to make wonderful advocacy pieces like this, but also we're working directly with other countries, as well as looking at the Shannon facility, 12 kilometers down the road from Boundary Dam, to see the opportunities to keep coal in the fleet while cleaning up those emissions and meeting regulations. So I'll just keep talking while they do that. So everybody from the Knowledge Center actually was assessed power employee. We're also handed over to the Knowledge Center. So the brilliant brains of Corwin, who built the facility, but also I'm Sakani, I was a lawyer, right? I learned it all from scratch, just like I think, oh there we go, perfect. I hope that everybody can learn a little bit today, a bit more about what I've learned.
Go down.
Yeah, if you want to just hit that little screen, this little guy here that's like looks at the screen, that makes it into a cat. Oh, I'll tell you.
Slides on.
There we go. And is there- Okay, so I've already told you who we are. And our mandate is to advance the understanding of CCS to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And this is next. So one of the biggest and most important parts about our facility is you. These are the people that are in unions, the IBEW workers, the Boilermakers, the building trades. Without you, this project doesn't happen, and it's super critical and super important. And like I say in the video, those cars are your cars, you know, and we tell that to everybody. We tell that to China. We tell that I have the fantastic opportunity to travel the world and talk about how important the community of Estevan is to keeping the lights on in Canada and how we can share what we learn with the rest of the world. And so what we did is we took this large-scale deployment that we've been doing for 4 years at Boundary Dam, and then we took that and we can share the operational understandings. Went from there and did the second generation report on Shannon, which shows that we can reduce the cost if we did CCS on the next plant by 67%. Gordon will tell you a little bit more about that later. And then we're looking at other ways to drive future opportunities and how we can take this technology and put it on other things like the cement plant or iron and steel plant and many other coal plants to keep the longevity of this technology going. I'm going to skip over this slide. Basically, just all you need to know here is that at the heart of what we do is the CCS project. So there are many things that go into making a future decision for carbon capture and storage. Those things include policy and economics, and then holding that up as the capacity, the ability to do it, as well as the financing and the money. And we think that because we've done it here, we actually can help de-risk other projects going forward. One of the things that Saskatchewan can also teach the rest of the world that sometimes, the rest of Canada can't, that's our reliable baseload power that actually comes from coal. And so we don't have the ability to have large hydro projects the same way that Ontario does, for instance. So kind of putting the exact same policy in place for all of Canada doesn't take into consideration our vast differences in our landscape. So you know this plant. This is Boundary Dam. Those are the cars I always talk about right there. This was during the construction. What was it, Corin? 50,000 man-hours went into this project?
5 million.
5 million?
5 million.
I've dropped a couple zeros here. So 5 million man-hours went into this project. I mean, that's very significant. And Dr. Kitchen actually mentioned it was a 1% vacancy rate during the time of construction and getting up and going here in Estevan. So this is what we do. So what we represent at the International CCS Knowledge Center is not just a carbon capture and storage facility. That facility, though, to let you know, captures 90% of the CO2 emissions, and that's what most people are focused on. because CO2 is the big reason for global warming and climate change, etc. But in order to get to that CO2, we actually have to clean up a lot of other particulate matter, including 100% of the SO2. That's acid, for instance. But places like China, for instance, they're not necessarily targeting the CO2 right now, but they know that their children can't breathe. So they need to figure out other ways to clean up particulates from coal. We use the CO2 for enhanced oil recovery when we can sell it, because if we can make a profit out of a waste product, that's always great. And for enhanced oil recovery, there's actually 30% less greenhouse gas emissions that come from the extraction compared to traditional extraction methods. So it's actually nice. It's a nice way to get and charge that reservoir like we saw in the video. The Estevan facility is 3.4 kilometers away from the Downtown Power Station, and it's actually 3.4 kilometers into the ground that this CO2 is stored. It is over-monitored to the nth degree, and I will tell you that it's completely safe and very secure. And we know exactly where that plume of CO2 goes. So when we put it in the ground, it's actually not a gas. That's something I learned. It's actually compressed and turned into a liquid state called supercritical. And when it's down, we can actually see exactly where it's going. And there's a lot of different cap rocks all above that, so it's never coming up. If it's moving, it's going horizontally. And then the carbon capture test facility is at the Shan Power Station. This is where we're actually looking at trying to reduce operating costs for the process as well for SAS Power. We can also get different countries in here that want to test here before going larger scale at their own facility. So basically, a lot of the cost for this is $1.5 billion, which is a big price tag. But this was a big project, and it was the world's first project. So you can either say it was the most expensive or the cheapest, since it was the only one. But a lot of that cost actually wasn't just for the capture plant. That was also for the refurbishment of the coal plant, which made that coal plant have 38 years more life. So it would have been a potential stranded asset otherwise. And so what happened is, Corin will tell you more about why we made that decision, etc. But at the time, natural gas prices were higher, and it wasn't because the regulation was looming. There was actually other considerations in play. And Corin's much better at this, so I'm going to steal his thunder. So we worked on the design efficiencies and the construction quality issues, and now it's at a point where we look to reliability, and our reliability is quite high, and then we move into reducing costs. That's the SAS Power operational point of view. And the Knowledge Center is still sharing the knowledge and lessons learned that SAS Power gains in that process. Oh, this is cool. Corin will talk about that. Next slide. Yeah. So, just want to let you know the current status of federal performance standards. This is just for knowledge. Saskatchewan is a beautiful pink rectangle there. Has 3 coal plants. Alberta actually can't do CCS on their coal plants because of a provincial regulation, not because of federal regulations. It limits them from having any emissions come from a coal plant, not just minimal emissions coming from a coal plant. But as you can see, there are many places in Canada that still use coal and are affected by federal regulations that come into play. So this is how clean we get. So liquid coal is 1,100 tons per gigawatt hour. It is debatably, maybe certainly, the dirtiest thing that you can burn to make power. And with CCS, we can clean that up to 120 to 140 tons per megawatt hour. That's operating at its nameplate capacity. Current natural gas plants in Saskatchewan are 550 to 500 tons per gigawatt hour, and those don't even meet the coal plant regulations, which are 420 for the federal government. New natural gas plants, like the one that will be happening in the current, they're combined cycle, and so they have significantly less emissions. And here in Saskatchewan, interestingly enough, wind is not zero, because in order for wind to blow, it needs to have backup natural gas peaker stations. And so when they ramp up and ramp down the emissions, that we have to include those emissions in factoring what the emissions from the wind are. CCS is cleaner than all of those things on a coal plant. Again, a bonus slide. But basically this slide shows you that over time, we started to be able to capture. So the highest point on that red there, that was when we captured at nameplate capacity. This just shows all the different things you go through as a world-first facility. You know, you start to figure out how your chemical solution works, and then you get to a point where you're very reliable, and that's here at the end of the day. Oh, Laro, thanks. You can continue on to the next slide. Yeah, next. Okay, now I'm going to hand it over to Corbin, and he's going to tell you all about the great work that Knowledge Center did, applying the lessons learned from Beaver Dam to do a pre-feasibility study at Shan for second generation Bring your purple to match our logo.
We also have a tour today, so golf shirts are more appropriate for doing tours, so golf shirts and jeans. Anyway, so we have a good tour today with some of our friends here. Anyway, so as you might imagine, we did not rehearse this. So as we go through here, I'll just try to fill in some of the gaps that left for me. So the Shan second generation feasibility study. So we completed that in about, the public version was completed in November of last year. And so basically what we did is we then decided that we wanted to crystallize sort of all the learnings that we had from doing Beaver Dam 3. So as you go through the process, which we started in 2009 and went all the way through to about 2017 when we had finished getting reliability up to where it was. We're obviously keeping track of all the things that we'd like to do. And so what we did is we tried to distill all that down and see how good we could do on our next project. And so it actually started by looking at Beaver Dam 4 and 5. And we looked at those facilities and said, okay, well we can retrofit these, but it turns out those units actually aren't that amenable to carbon capture. So as you guys saw on the tour today, there's a lot of modifications that were required along the steam turbine, the feed heating plant, lots of piping that had to be done in a brownfield site, so an existing facility that ended up taking a significant amount of time and increased the costs. And so when we looked at the Shan facility, we looked at the steam turbine that was there and determined that, lo and behold, it's a lot more amenable to being converted to carbon capture. And so what we can do is we can just change some of the blades inside the turbine without changing the entire feed heating plant to still get the energy we need to put carbon capture. And so the parts of the upgrade, not related to the life extension, but just related to making the power plant work with the carbon capture plant, at Shan is 92% cheaper than Beaver Dam. So a significant amount of kit we just don't need to put in. Now, of course, Beaver Dam, as you talked about, there was a 30-year life extension we went with that. It turns out that for Shan, it's got a nameplate life right now of 2040, 2042 would be its natural next time we need to reinvest money. And so, of course, you have to put a little bit of capital in to get to the same end at least in the capture plant, so another 30 years or so. Anyway, so I guess highlights of it. So it's designed to capture 2 million tons per year, so it'll be about twice the size of Beaver Dam. Not coincidentally, because it's twice the size of the coal-fired power plant as Beaver Dam is. We see 67% cost reduction per ton of CO2 versus Beaver Dam 3. So this project sneaks in just under the $1 billion Canadian number. And so that number that we come up with, that would be consistent with the same sort of business model we put in place for Beaver Dam 3. It contains 12.5% contingency. It contains all of our interest earning construction, like all the stuff that you would put into building a project like this if you were South Power. So that was the basis that we compared it to. Another interesting thing about the study is that it turns out, and we learned this actually from Battery Dam, it's been reinforced, we're seeing it a lot more throughout the world. When Battery Dam was designed, the idea was 90% capture was thought to be about as good as you could get. And then when we started running down Dam 3, we started to bypass some of the flue gas, we realized that, well, you can capture a lot more than 90%. You can capture 97%, 98% on smaller amounts of flue gas. And so what we did with this is we said, okay, well, if the Shannon power plant is going to be converted to CCS, it's going to have to continue to fall low because there's going to be more wind and more renewables. Can we run the carbon capture plant at full output while the power plant is at reduced load to allow wind and renewables to generate parameters? And the answer, of course, is yes. And what we could do is we could amp up the amount of carbon we capture. And so for no additional investment, when the Shannon facility would be following the wind, it would get up to 97% carbon capture. And so that's pretty important because it actually reinforces what you're doing by putting renewables on the grid. I have no idea how many other slides there are, so let's see what else we have. And you can start with any kind of questions. I have a pretty good understanding of it, so I can usually think of my feet and answer. So if you have them, just shoot out a question. So 2 million tons per year, 67% less cost capital per ton. We calculate about $45 US per ton of CO2 capture. So that includes the capital cost of the facility, the operation and maintenance of the facility, as well as the chemical makeup for the 80 chemicals to run the facility. We already talked about 97% at reduced loads, 97% carbon capture. And of course, interestingly enough, because we're looking at the Shannon station, it actually sells fly ash off the back for use in the concrete business, and that concrete that it offsets ends up creating an emission credit that would be equal to about 125,000 tons of CO2 per year. And if you combine those two together, you actually get to Shannon power plant would be carbon neutral if you include all of the benefits of doing that particular thing. So next slide here. Okay, and so this is just reiterating some of the stuff that Jack talked about. So it turns out that the flue gas coming off the back of a coal-fired power plant with particulate NOx, SO2, with all that stuff in it, it turns out that is very similar to what you get coming off the back of a whole bunch of other processes. So iron and steel has a very similar flue gas. Cement plants, interestingly, have almost identical flue gas to what you get from a regulated power plant. And so what we're showing here is that what we've learned on Dam 3 can be applied to these other industrial emissions. And in fact, sometime this year, we're going to be announcing, we're going to be working with a cement company to look at a feasibility study here in North America. So I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so driving future opportunities. So at the International CCS Knowledge Center, not only do we do studies for SAS Power, like we did with our second-gen CCS study, we're also looking to the future. We're looking at potentially taking that Shannon study and integrating it with biomass firing. And so the concept here is that you would take your coal-fired power plant and you start to mix in biomass derived from either forest waste products or perhaps excess straw and stuff off the farmers' fields. And you can start to move that so it's not carbon zero, it can become carbon negative. What the rest of the world is talking about in terms of bioenergy and CCS. And it turns out these coal-fired thermal power plants and their ability to mix in biomass, especially with our low-grade fuel, is an excellent opportunity to do very cheap bioenergy and CCS by using our coal plants and blending them with biomass, which is pretty interesting stuff. So not only doing that, we're also working with other facilities around the world. So we're involved with Fort Oslo Garbing, which is a waste-to-energy plant in Oslo, Norway. So in Europe, they tend to burn their garbage and actually produce heat for their homes and for their downtown buildings with integrated heat plants, and then also create electricity. And so what they're doing now is they're actually looking at using the exact same technology that's here, hand-salt technology from Battery Dam 3. They're looking at actually putting that on the back of this waste-to-energy facility so that it would be zero emission as well. We're working with them, we're working with some companies in one company in Australia, and then as well as China. So we're doing sharing knowledge and collaborating with them and trying to provide them what we like to call experience-based guidance so that they can learn from what we learn from building Battery Dam 3 project. I guess that's the sort of the business case, so I'll just back up a little bit because I think it's an important story that doesn't get told that much, especially anymore. At the time that Battery Dam 3 was approved, which is 2010, natural gas prices were $5 to $6 a gigajoule and projected to be on upward swing, which of course isn't surprising because 2000 and whatever. Early 2000s, we saw natural gas prices spike to $12 to $13 a gigajoule. So there was certainly some idea that natural gas would be more expensive in the future. And when the Battery Dam 3 project was approved, it actually was shown to be an equivalent price to natural gas in that sector. So on $1 per megawatt hour, it was thought that facility would be the same as a natural gas facility. And so that was the basis for which it was approved. Now, of course, since that time, the reality is that natural gas has got embarrassing energy, and that has changed the economics a bit, such that if you had a fuel choice decision to make in 2017, such as Saskatchewan did, you might build a natural gas combined cycle plant. But in 2010, Battery Dam 3 was the low-cost answer to CCS. Anyway, so when we look at the Sham plant, we look at 67% cost reductions. But we're trying to close that gap back down to make sure that it's something that could be in the discussion as a comparison for your energy source in comparison to natural gas. And I don't think I'm going to go into any of the other stuff. The other thing that's very interesting about the Battery Dam 3 project, so we go around the world, and of course there's this huge debt curve with the CCS project. So when we started doing Battery Dam 3, in about 2009, we had kind of a hard time at some points getting people to be interested in our project because there was 15 to 20 other projects that were going forward in, you can imagine, more exotic locations than Estevan. And they were actually taking up all the interest from the vendor community. And over the course of 2 or 3 years, all of those projects went away. And they left Battery Dam as the only project that ended up being moving forward in that whole project. And what really led to that actually was the $240 million investment from the federal government. It allowed us to get the project all the way to being shovel-ready on decision. And so that is actually one of the main differentiators between Battery Dam and all these other failed projects, is that on the day that the government decided, or SAS Power decided that they were investing in it, a month later we had earth movement on the site. We had rotors from turbines coming over from Japan. The whole thing was shovel ready, no buyer's remorse, and I think that's one of the main things that drove the success of the Battery Dam project. Anyway, so that's kind of the recap of the end of the walk. I can take a few questions, or I can hand it over to Robert here to go next. Any questions?
Yeah. Similar to me, which is trying to close that gap. That's an actual gas and how close are you to that gap?
Yeah, so when you compare generation options, you usually talk about levelized cost of electricity. And usually what you do is you will take what capital cost of the facility, how much it takes you to take down, minus the, plus the amount of fuel you have to put into it, minus the amount of revenue you get from selling byproducts such as fly ash, CO2, and all that kind of stuff. And then you compare it to come up with this levelized cost of electricity in dollars per megawatt. However, the reason that in the public study we talked about levelized cost of capture is that in order to do that, we have to talk about what SAS Power pays for fuel, what SAS Power's operation and maintenance costs are, and those are things that they don't want to talk about. So you have to get right into the goods for them in order to answer that question.
But I think for the school, it makes sense from that. Like you brought it down to 7%.
Right.
Close to the rates and the natural gas.
So depending on what the cost of your fuel is, and depending if you have a revenue stream to buy the CO2, then the answer is yes. I can tell you that if there was 2 million tons of CO2 that was going to be sold from the Shan station, all for EOR at relatively the same price as Boundary Dam, then you would have a very compelling business case.
So I'm just going to help answer that question too. It's not just about what fuel you use. It's also about your community, the jobs, the situation, the population. There are many things to keep into consideration, as well as the stranded assets you may end up having on fields that already exist. So it's not just the price of the fuel. So that goes into a decision, but the fact is natural gas may also have a requirement to reduce its emissions in the future. We just know that's what's on hold right now. You can put CCS on natural gas as well. You could, like we said, you can put it on anything post-combustion. And so it's not just the price of the fuel. So if that's a question, it needs to be framed a little bit differently, in my opinion. Any other
Price of fuel and revenue.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about some of the benefits of the byproducts from burning coal. So you've got your sales of fly ash, which is actually, I believe there's 2 different types. There's Portland cement and fly ash cement, right?
You got it.
And in producing Portland cement, you're actually creating more CO2
That's right.
than you are with fly ash cement.
Yes, exactly.
So chances are all the sidewalks we're walking out there has fly ash in it. You also have the salient CO2, and you capture a lot of the sulfur dioxide, and that's converted into sulfuric acid, or industrial-grade sulfuric acid. So is there a lot of sales for that, sulfuric acid? One thing you haven't touched on yet, and I was wondering if you were considering it, is there is a company out in New Brunswick that is capturing CO2 out of the atmosphere and creating fuel by combining it with hydrogen and oxygen. Now, in doing that, they have a capture cost of, I believe it's anywhere from $95 American up to $240 to capture 1 ton of CO2. Is that an option out here? Since we're capturing the CO2, can it also be used, since it looks like we're capturing it at about $35 a ton? Could we be producing jet fuel
Great question.
or that as well? Thank you.
Great question. I get asked that so much. It's really interesting. I get asked more and more, actually. So yes, we do use the fly ash. So I'll start from the beginning. We use the fly ash. SAS Power, I should be clear, sells that to Lehigh Cement, and they actually use it in sidewalks. You're right. The sidewalks of Vancouver actually have Boundary Dam fly ash in it. But yeah, we do sell the sulfuric acid as well, and that's anything that you can get as a byproduct, why not, is what I say to that. Including CO2. Take something that would be a waste product and turning it into something useful is very valuable. Now, the return on the investment, however, and the amount of CO2 is what we're considering with our large-scale project. So while we can take CO2 and turn it into another fuel, let's think about how much energy it has to be produced in order to convert it into something else, and what that energy penalty looks like, etc. But also, I think, there's a lot of us here that enjoy beer, I'm sure, but you can never drink that much beer. With all the CO2 that would be in beer, the whole world would compare to the amount of emissions that are being reduced at this facility. So, yes, I will try and give away some of that CO2 if people want to use it for something useful and you can make some money off of it, but realistically, the amount, it's the quantity here that we're talking about, because that's not a gas in that we're compressing it. And it is, it takes up space, it's a lot of CO2. So yes, we can. The answer is yes. But do you want to? Probably not right here, right now. We actually can use that for enhanced well recovery, etc. And it's those large-scale emission reductions that we need, and that this community is showing has happened, and that especially places like China, which have 25% of the world's emissions, that's what they need, not to turn it into necessarily more difficult. Corwin, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. I'll add to that. So what you're talking about is a syn fuel, so it's synthetic fuel. And so what you end up doing is synthetic fuel is a synthetic hydrocarbon, right? And so you're going to use the CO2 that you capture off the back of the coal-fired power plant, and then you're going to have to combine it with hydrogen in order to make your hydrocarbon. And so when you burn your hydrocarbon, you'll actually be re-releasing that CO2. So syn fuel, I think you're talking about Carbon Engineering is the name of the company. So syn fuel produced by Carbon Engineering, assuming they get their electricity from a 100% renewable source, would be zero emissions. It would not be negative emissions in any way, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, so whatever carbon that they're extracting from the atmosphere, they're just re-releasing when the fuel's burned.
Right.
So they're calling it a net zero.
Yeah. So if you think of it, it's a convenient way of carrying your hydrogen around.
Right.
That's really, if you think about that.
The only thing, the point that I was looking at was in a way to reduce the cost of using coal. That if you could turn around and use some of that CO2 and sell it as another product.
You could. I'm not sure. So as part of the federal regulations, you have to prove that you have sequestered and not emitted that CO2. And so I think if you were to take that CO2 and use it in a syn fuel, then you're not actually not emitting it, right? You're just delaying the emitting of that CO2. So I'm not sure how that would work out, right? Yeah. Because the CO2 eventually will be emitted because you made a fuel, you're going to burn it, and so then you're going to release that CO2 again.
Just to follow up your presentation, it's nice to see you attach
It's very important, and it's something that's also important that I don't talk too much about. The cost of abating CO2 by putting it in turbines is very expensive. So you don't have to be too much of a mathematician to figure out, you're going to save moving the natural gas by putting it on the wind turbine. You're still going to have to pay for the plant. You're still going to pay for the operators. All those costs are going to be the same. The only thing you save is the fuel for the natural gas plant when you put it in the wind turbine. And so that is the only offsetting that cost. And so the only reason you're doing it is for emission reduction, and it's a very expensive way of doing emission reduction, like well more than $100 per ton of CO2 by any calculation. Okay, so next, any questions? My opinion on the slide.
Thank you, Corwin and Beth. As always, it's so much appreciated in just helping spread the information and knowledge that you have with everyone around the world. It's amazing what you guys do. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Rob Mitchell. He's a great friend of the carbon capture community. I first met Rob 2 years ago at touring the Northwest Refinery in Fort Saskatchewan. And he introduced me to with Mike Bonke and Beth and Corwin, and we just been going vertical from there and educate people and try our best, because there's a lot of challenges out there and there's a lot of people who are simply opposed to this technology because of assuming personal investments in other technologies, but they have to understand that this technology here will have the biggest impact on mitigating carbon dioxide emissions. And I think, the previous federal government should be complementing themselves and educating more people about the risks and investments that they did with Northwest Refinery, Shell Quest, right here in Estevan. And I compliment the previous government for taking that leadership role and going on our limb and taking the risk to invest in these technologies. And I hope that the next government of Canada will do the same. So thank you. And Bob, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I've got a short slide deck. I've only got about 2 slides I'm going to talk to you about, but I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction about what the Global CCS Institute is and how we work with the CCS realm and carbon capture realm. I'm not sure exactly what you would like me to talk about, but I'm here to talk to you whatever you'd like to talk about after that. A bit of a background on the Global CCS Institute. So the Institute was formed back in 2009 with a total of $400 million given to the Institute from the Australian government. With that $400 million, we were charged with going out and looking at all carbon capture components or areas around the world to learn what's being done on capture, transport, storage, policy, regulations, and public outreach and communication on carbon capture and storage. So we've been doing that since 2009, so we're in our 9th year. Going into our 10th year. Originally, we were funding some pilot demonstration projects, but as you can see, $400 million, if you do pilot projects, you do a lot of research around the globe, we start to lose our money and we start to become almost to the broke point. So over time, we kind of refocused and reshaped our organization. So about 5 years ago, instead of doing that diverse, vast research, broad-based, all over the globe, we put it into more targeted research that would have more impact in moving carbon capture moving forward. So it's kind of where we changed the focus, and we went from being anybody can join our institute for free to a member-paid institute. So our members pay a fee that helps keep some of the lights going on, and that enables us to do this thought leadership work and to advance carbon capture around the world. So we put together a database of all the facilities that are happening around the world, and we advocate for carbon capture to work. So we take a look at what's happening here in Canada, what's happening in Alberta, what you've been doing in Saskatchewan to try and showcase and broadcast that message. Because it's very important. What you've done here is spurring on the next generation and the next generation, which will drop or significantly reduce the amount of carbon emissions that are out there around the world. And it's a climate change issue. We believe in climate change. That's why our organization is around. So I'm just going to touch on a couple keynotes from a high-level perspective of where carbon capture fits on a global perspective. So this slide here comes from the IEA. It's a bit dated, back in 2016. But if you look at today's numbers, they're very much the same. In order for us to make those IPCC targets, to keep global warming to below 2 degrees, we need a bunch of things going at once and together. We can't select one and go with that one. We need all of them. We need the renewables. We need the wind. We need the solar. We need the hydro. We need the nuclear. But we also need carbon capture and storage. So from their projections, they projected the amount of CO2 emissions reductions from carbon capture will be in the tune of anywhere from 12 to 24%, just depending on how much of a 2 degree level or below 2 degree level you're going to get to. So it's going to play an important role. So where do we stand for carbon capture today? So as I mentioned, we track carbon capture facilities around the globe, and we try and make sure people are aware of what's happening to spur on the next version, the next facility going out there. So around the world, there's 43 facilities that are in either advanced development, construction, or in physical operation. So those are all around the globe. Of the 18 facilities that are online, we've got the Quest facility and Boundary Dam, and we actually have the Dakota gasification Weyburn CO2 injection for Weyburn Minedale as part of that. So it's kind of 2.5 facilities out of those 18 are here in Canada.
which is great news and showing leadership. Of the 5 that are under construction, 2 of them are located in Alberta, associated with the Alberta Carbon Trunking Project. The Northwest Refineries, which are taking CO2 off their hydrogen generation, and the Nutrient Facility taking CO2 off of their fertilizer facility up in the Fort Saskatchewan area. So those, when they come on the line, it shows that Canada has a very big presence within the CCS community around the world. So obviously I'm located in Canada, I'm proud Canadian, helped work on the Office for a project when it first kicked off back in 2010. So I take notice of what's actually happening, what's being said, what's not being said, and try and get that message out there and advocate for carbon capture and be part of the policy. But I will get the information, tell the story of what the challenges are for the facilities in order for them to move forward. And a lot has been talked about by our friends at the Knowledge Center. They shared a lot of that information, which is great. We need everybody talking and communicating this out there. Okay, so where are we at today? If you add all up, we have 33 million tons of CO2 being captured today by 18 large-scale facilities. And by large scale, that's over 400,000 tons of CO2 being captured in a year. There's a lot more smaller facilities that are out there. We just don't have them tracked into our system at the moment. Although we're looking to expand that and maybe include that into our new level of captured facilities being presented. But that large scale will have an impact on how much CO2 emissions are out there. So that 33 million tons, where do we need to get to? So based on the IEA projections, we need to get to 3,800 million tons of CO2 being captured on an annual basis. That is not going to be all by Canada, so don't worry, it's not on our shoulders here. We're only about 2% of the global emissions of CO2, but we have our role to play in those other 98% of the emissions. In the fact that we have the advantage of having the technology, the expertise and experience to take the technologies, develop them, and get them to the stage where then it becomes economic to have deployment in other areas so that we can make that significant reduction in CO2 emissions. So how do you get there? Well, 18 today, you do a little bit of math, you calculate it out at 2 million tons on average per facility, which is twice the size of Boundary Dam. Well, that means we need 94 facilities coming online, twice the size of Boundary Dam, every year for 20 years in order to get to that level. So this is great actually from a trades perspective. It's great from a business opportunity, from an economy perspective, because that's a lot of jobs, that's a lot of work that we have to do. So one side it might look as a daunting task, but the other side is this is a great opportunity, and let's see how we can get this moving forward. And the quicker we get moving forward, the easier the task is to achieve. Because that 94 will then bump up to hundreds of facilities that will have to go on. That's all I have for the presentation stuff on things. I do have a background from the oil and gas industry in Canada, so I can answer any questions about the storage aspects or any kind of other questions you might have on carbon capture. But I didn't want to take too much of your time. I wanted to give you that global context of how important carbon capture is and how important your role has been to facilitate moving the carbon capture needle forward. By the way, Boundary Dam was the first large-scale carbon capture facility on a coal-fired plant in the world. The second one happened about a year or two later in Petronova down in the U.S., which is about 1.5 to 2 million tons of CO2 being captured. So it stepped it up to the next level. There's now talk in the U.S. to take it to the third level, to the next generation. So Project Tundra, Minnesota Power down in the U.S., are planning a 3.5 million ton per year CO2 capture facility on a coal-fired plant. So you've spurred on the conversations to move to the next one, to the next one. And hopefully by the time we get to the Shannon, until we get to the Valley or the Poplar, for the power facilities that are currently on coal, we can get that cost down. So, yeah, maybe it doesn't even have to compete with the gas fire. Now it is an option that we can go forward. I do have to go to the sentence that I made earlier. We can't be comparing coal-fired with carbon capture to just gas-fired as a substitution. We need to actually compare that to gas-fired with carbon capture. which then puts the cost into a very comparable, compelling argument for keeping the facilities up and running. So thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
How many members are in your institute? Are most countries, I'm assuming, developed countries that are members? What is the buy-in for this technology around?
Great question. Institute membership, I mentioned before, it was kind of diverse. In national governments, state governments, we had companies, we had majors, we had minors, we had small technology companies, we had tons of universities. That's kind of shrunk down to about 56 to 60 organizations around the world. We've got some large governments. We've got the UK, the US, we've got Australia, Japan, and China as national members. We had Canada, but they backed out about 5 years ago when we started talking about having membership. We're looking to try and engage with the Canadian government to try and move that needle, to get them on board to work with the rest of the countries to move forward. We did have provinces on board. Saskatchewan government, the Alberta government. But due to political differences, Alberta first backed out due to financial issues. Saskatchewan backed out last year. So we're always looking to move forward to build that argument, to have more of a voice, to try and move the needle on getting the carbon facilities up and going. We've got a bit of momentum that we've seen in the last year. So we kind of were about 50 to 55. We jumped up 6 new members in the first half of this year. So we're starting to see more and more companies and organizations and countries moving on board with the Institute. Again, joining the movement, moving together as a collaborative to move things forward, rather than doing it out on their own.
What you've seen with some of the newer facilities since boundary and in terms of reliable, some of the use of the boundary dams that hasn't necessarily met the targets, some of the equipment going offline. Have you seen more reliable technology coming in some of the facilities?
Good question about facilities. Now, the challenge with boundary dam is it's kind of isolated. There's only 2 carbon capture power facilities in the world. Everything else for the carbon capture facilities are based on industrial. A lot of it having to do with processing gas, taking the CO2 off the gas streams, or creating hydrogen in an industrial process, or even ethanol, where you manufacture 95-98% purity CO2 stream, you just knock out some water, compress it, and you're ready to store. From the power industry, boundary dam it was the first. And to be honest, they're very transparent about the issues that they've seen, which is fantastic for trying to advance the learnings and understandings. It's only from them that other facilities have been able to get going where they're at. Now, some companies, and I've been involved with other companies in the past, will try and smooth things out so it doesn't look so great, or it looks so bad, I guess. If you make a nice smooth line, nothing behaves that way. The fact that things are going up and down, something happens. This turns off. You're relying on power. You're relying on utilities in order to keep things. These things do happen, and they're engineering problems. As Ian McGregor said, we're engineers. It's those problems why we're here, to overcome them and to make it better for the next one. I mean, the stuff that SAS Power's done about the dams, fascinating. How they improved their efficiency. You saw their annual capture rates. It's gone up every year. It's working. It's doing better. So from that, I would say that it's working very well.
Can I just add something to that, Rob? So, never measure boundary dam by how much CO2 comes from the capture plant. Because when a tornado hit the power station, there was no emissions to capture. So recently there was an article in the news saying boundary dam is supposed to capture 800,000 tons of CO2 per year. Well, you can't capture if there's nothing to capture coming from the power plant. So those are emissions that didn't go in the air, but it wasn't because the CCS facility wasn't working. It's because there was nothing to capture. So it's not that you're not meeting the target of capture. those emissions didn't go in the air. So you have to be very careful when you're writing articles to be clear on what is successful.
It's usually
Yeah.
the emission intensity works on, right? So, your carbon, yes, infinite miles per gallon of carbon driving. And that's exactly the same thing with Boundary Dam, right? It didn't consume 60 tanks of fuel last year because we took the blame all summer because the carbon plant wasn't operational for that extended time and the issues with the sea growing. And that's if you look at it with triangle, even with all that aggregate stuff, the emission intensity per unit of electricity has gone down and down and down as the facility become more reliable and more running in time.
And that is an excellent story.
How do you get that out to the general public? Because the general public thinks that carbon capture is far too expensive right now to move ahead with the next one. How do you get to the general public? I mean, the opposed offense is publicly articles that say we didn't get the 100,000 that we intended to get. How do you get to the general public? And I know Dave will see that that work for the improvement. Other than stuff like this, how do you get them engaged? In Saskatchewan, where we don't have that, we have a lot of people.
It's an excellent question. How to engage the public and get the public educated about the challenges and about the importance of it. It's hard. It's something that the Institute we've decided really more focused upon the decision makers within organizations and governments and those kind of levels. It takes a whole team to get out there and a lot of resources to connect with the public to actually educate them on carbon capture. We, at the Institute, we did develop, along with SAS Power at the time of the launch of the Boundary Dam, materials that can be used to try and simplify the understanding of where carbon capture, what does it mean by capturing CO2, where does CO2 come from, little demonstrations that we can take to the public to educate into the classrooms of elementary schools. And to be honest, we've used that same program from the centers down in Mexico to try and raise the awareness and the understanding what is carbon capture, what is transportation, what does it mean by storage, what is the rock, what is injecting into rocks, and how does it get into rocks. So using demonstrations for that, but it takes time and resources. It'd be interesting to put together a community or community in order to do that, but again, it takes resources. We try to advocate our advocacy, and I think the Boilermakers are doing a great job. This video is available. Spread it out there as much as you can. Show it to your families, friends. It does an awesome job of explaining the challenges and the importance of having carbon capture put into deployment in facilities around the world. Interesting conversations. I've been connecting up with governments. I've been talking with industries. Industries are waiting for governments to put carbon capture, as they call it, on the menu. And carbon capture governments are waiting for industry to come to them and say, put this on the menu. So it's almost, she said, we're waiting for the chicken and the egg, whatever comes first. We need all come together on this. The time for waiting for something to happen, we need to all come together and actually do this and come together as a community in order to make it work. So I don't know how we can get that awareness and that education out there. Forums like this, having people ask questions is great. Maybe seeing how we can work with the communities. Typically, we're working with communities where there will be potential for carbon capture facilities. So Shell, when they went out for the Quest facility, they went out and had many public forums where they went out and answered the questions, took the questions from the public and answered them so that they had a better understanding of what's going on. So in communities like here in Estevan, I think you guys have a fairly good understanding of the importance and the meaning of it. The challenge is, what about the next town over, or the next town over, or the other towns that have voting into the politics, voting into the MPs and say to the government to put this on the menu as a priority to move forward on. that's a challenge. I'd love to do it all, but I'm limited on my stroke too.
Thank you.
Okay, continue on for agenda. We have a few elected officials in the crowd. They do material. So that's, and I'd like to recognize them. And if you wish, I'll say a few words. So first coming out is MLA Lori Carr. Lori represents Estevan in the area. If you want to come up, Lori, if you're comfortable and say a few words, we'd really like that.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I actually was just here as an observer, so not prepared to speak, but honestly, what politician isn't prepared to speak? So I want to thank you so much for throwing this event on today. It is really important to get the word out as we've been speaking about. And thank you so much for the knowledge that all of our professionals bring to the topic. It's very important, especially for the community of Estevan as far as carbon capture goes, with the coal mines that we have right here, and as we talk about the jobs that they provide for all of our communities. So this is a very dear and near to my heart, and I truly hope that we see something like this advance in the community of Estevan. As well, we need this technology to be embraced by the world because it truly is the game changer that's going to help emissions go down around the world. So I just thank you guys for coming out today. Welcome to our special guests and Dr. Kitchen for bringing them here today. I'm sure he's going to have a couple of words to say. So just thank you very much for doing this, and I really enjoyed the presentation this afternoon. Thank you.
That was a great segue into Dr. Pitcher. If you want to come up and say a few words. Yeah, come on up. Kitchen. Just like when you, Pitcher, I said Pitcher.
Just like when you Thank you very much, and what an excellent presentation. Mr. Carr, thank you very much for being here, and my colleagues, Ed Fast and John Barlow, have come all the way from Ed from Vancouver and John from Alberta, so it's great to have them here to actually see what we do here. I've spent 3 years now as an MP pushing carbon capture in Ottawa and the value of it. And it's great to have my colleagues here so that they truly understand the value. One of the things that I've learned as an MP in the short time I've been there is that I get people coming to me all the time saying, do this, do that, do this. And my answer to a lot of them is, what are you doing? And so it's great to see the Boilermakers put up this video, because that's fantastic. That's what I tell these people is, put something out like that, put it out on social media, educate Canadians about the good work that you do. This is great work that you do, that's done for Canada and for Estevan as well. I mean, obviously it's great for my community, but it's great for Canada, and it'd be great for our future. So I encourage you to continue to do that. I would want to thank you for putting this on. It was a great day today when we got a chance to tour the CCS and got a chance to tour the power plant and see the testing facility. And hopefully we will be taking that back. And it won't just be me in Ottawa pushing it, it will be Ed and it will be John as well as others. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you. Would our guests like to come up and say a word? We got John Barlow out of Alberta. You want to come up and say a few words, John? Thank you, John. MP of Alberta. John Barlow.
I won't take more than a couple of seconds. I just want to thank Dr. Kitchen for having myself and Ed here. Certainly I can attest to a very good MP who has talked about this incessantly to his colleagues since he was elected in 2015. I will speak really briefly on the perspective that I want. One of the reasons I wanted to come here, obviously, being in Alberta, we have the Northwest Upgrader and the nutrient facility. But I also had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago, thanks to Corey, to tour some of the Boilermaker and pipe fitter trade facilities in Edmonton. And what really struck me was speaking to the members in the lodge. It was dispatch days, so I happened to have an opportunity to speak to many of those members. is 70% of their members are out of work right now. And we have certainly felt the impact of the downturn in the energy sector, and certainly government regulations have had an impact on that, with these people who have not had an opportunity to work. Facilities like carbon capture storage and the Shannon facility, which is going to show the future and the potential of this technology, shows the opportunities and the highly skilled jobs that are available in this sector. And in my riding in Southern Alberta, I have 600 wind turbines. And I love Beth's comment in the video about when you come to Boundary Dam, you see the cars in the parking lot. I can guarantee you there is not a truck or a car anywhere near those wind farms unless they are repairing the turbines which necessitate a return or don't work. So I think this is an amazing opportunity for future jobs and highly skilled opportunities for training in the employment sector, and I'm really excited about the potential that we have and to see the work that you guys have done here to be a part of it. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ed Fast out of BC. If you want to come on up. MP, Canadian MP. Ed Fast. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you so much for having us here, hosting us. It's been quite a day, an eye-opener for me, being from the left coast. Being a conservative from the left coast. Let me start off by saying this. My responsibility in Ottawa, for those of you who don't know, is I'm the Shadow Minister for the Environment. And we are in the final stages of drafting an environment policy for Canada that we would take into the next election. We will likely roll it out before the end of June. I'm not going to tell you what's in it. But there's a reason why I'm out here, visiting with Dr. Kitchen and with Mr. Barlow, with everybody else that was part of the delegation to inform ourselves as to the opportunities we have to actually make a difference when it comes to climate change. And here's the reality. Climate change is a global challenge. We don't get our brains around that. We're not going to solve that problem. No. It's a global challenge that requires a global response. And Canada is probably better placed than most any other country in the world to deliver the solution. However, and here's where I'm going to get into politics of it. We are, after all, politicians, and I make no apologies for it. If you approach this issue trying to satisfy everybody, if you believe that you can make those on the environmental left happy because you're promising to phase out our natural resource sector, especially our oil and gas and coal sector, on an expedited basis. And on the other side, you're saying to Canadians, no, but we respect our resource sector and all of the jobs that sector creates. If you try to do that, you're going to satisfy nobody. I always say, if you're looking for what a government will do in the future, look to what that party or that government did in the past. It's very clear that the former Conservative government did step up and support CCS technology in a very significant way. And look what we've got now. We've got the Boundary Dam project, which has served to provide additional know-how to make Canada arguably the world leader in this technology. So why wouldn't we apply that and make it a formal part of our policy, our toolkit that we apply to do our part to address climate change? And if we're able to actually export that technology and that know-how elsewhere around the world, we can make a real difference. Canada represents only 1.6% of total greenhouse gas emissions in the global community. And if you think that the different tools that we're deploying are going to reduce those emissions by a quarter, so down to 1.2%, what kind of a change is that going to make? We can say we're doing our part. However, if we're able to deliver and deploy Canadian technology and know-how in a way that dramatically reduces emissions in some of the worst polluting spots around the world. We know what countries those are. What an opportunity we have to make a real difference and do it in an accountable way, accountable to Canadians, creating jobs, keeping jobs in Canada. I think that's the future. And so I'm so pleased to see the Boilermakers and other trades represented here. This is an opportunity to send a message. By the way, that video is going to be posted to my Facebook page tonight, I can assure you. So all the best as you do your part to communicate this message. Thank you.
Thank you to our elected officials. None of you guys had a speech written. You guys did very well. Okay. We're coming down, we're getting close to the end of our agenda here. We'll open the floor up to our experts. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns that we would like our experts or elected officials to answer? I'd open that up now.
Can I just add, there's no
Sure.
power decision makers in the room.
There you go. What's our decision
Feel free to
makers in
ask
the room?
any question and not be restrained by a fast power restraint.
Okay, I'll ask the question. I'll ask the question. I think it's on everyone's mind. What is the best case scenario of the next carbon capture going on Shannon and timeline? What's the best?
Okay, I'll be talking. So, first of all, we talked about the Shannon report, second generation CCS. So it's actually a public report. It's of course fully funded by BHP Milton. And one of the mandates that they have for us is to share that knowledge through the report. So you can actually go on to the ccsknowledge.com website, and you can either download the 120-page full engineering report, which breaks down the costs and shows where we're going to run the pipes and gets into all sorts of really awesome, great detail, which I love, of course. Or you can look at the diet version, which is a summary for decision makers, which is about a 20-page document. It kind of rolls it up to a higher level and makes it a little more digestible for the general public. What's in there is interesting, I think, and I always find this because quite often we go into places where they're like, well, we did our feasibility study, and now we don't know what to do. And so we took some of our own advice and we wrote chapter 11 in our feasibility study. It's not related to the U.S. chapter. But chapter 11 is about the budget, the timeline, actually go ahead and implement. And so if you read the full report, taking something forward like the Shannon project, you're looking at somewhere for a $30 to $50 million investment to get yourself to a front-end engineering design study, which will get you to the point where you're ready to make a final investment decision on a $1 billion project. And so, it lays out basically how you get from where we are in the feasibility study today to where you would be about 18 months from now, where you're ready to make a final investment decision. And so the key things there are, using the carbon capture test facility to make sure that there's no, less problems to do with the amine integration with the actual flue gas at the Shannon facility. Doing the full build-up of the site, surveying the market and seeing what places we can find to put the CO2 in terms of places that we can sell it for enhanced soil recovery, which of course is chapter 6, which is about the opportunities for enhanced soil recovery within a 100-kilometer radius of Shannon. So all that stuff is sort of laid out there in terms of our vision as to what it would be to take it from where it is as a feasibility study and take it to that next step where it's a final investment decision, an investable project. And so if you want to know the answers as to how you go next, that you can see. And that's based on sort of what we learned as part of going through the boundary and through the project. So the study that's been done so far, and I think you talked about this. So Battery Dam 3 is based on Shell CANSOLV technology, which is both an SO2 and a CO2 amine. In order to just broaden our experience, we actually looked at the other carbon capture vendor that's done full scale. So that's the one that's at the Petronova plant in Houston, which is done by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. So we use their technology just to look at, just to inform ourselves in terms of what the differences would be for that technology, and also because we thought it was, we'd driven it forward, we wanted to try to shed it, basically, if you look at it that way, right? So there's 2 companies in the world that have done full-scale post-combustion capture behind the coal-fired power plant, and that's why we looked at it in this facility. So there's some differences between what we put into the design of the Shannon facility than what's in the Battery Dam facility. One of the main things is that rather than the SO2 amine system, which is a significant part of the operational problems that the Battery Dam has gone through, it would actually use wet limestone FGD technology to deal with the SO2. And so it's a much more known technology. It has a different economics because you have to make up limestone on an annual basis, but it's certainly a little bit different. In terms of the footprint between the 2 plants, I would say that the facility is probably larger at Shan, but it's not twice as big. And so if you look at it, one of the big things that drives the Shan facility being cheaper on a per ton basis is because we can take advantage of the economies of scale, right? So if you Battery Dam has a 4,000 horsepower booster fan that draws the flue gas through the facility. If you go to the Shan facility, you know what? We need about an 8,000 horsepower booster fan, which are available and you can buy. But that isn't twice the cost of a 4,000 horsepower fan. And so that benefits of scale is certainly built into what we put for the Shan facility. So 2 million tons, other than the CO2 compressor, most things are actually just a little bit bigger. And that's a lot of what drives the cost savings that we saw in the Shan facility versus Battery Dam.
Plus, Shannon building envelope was built for 2 units, so you have that building available.
Well, so the building envelope isn't. The site is built for 2 units, but the intention was always to build another plant to the north, which would be Unit 2 of Shan. But what we did take advantage of is when they built that facility, they said, okay, well, let's put a water treatment plant in there ready for 2 plants. And so, in essence, the water treatment plant is oversized in Shan. And so we're taking advantage of that. We're taking advantage of the control room was built to have 2 units running. Okay, well, we're going to use the other half of that control room to run our CCS facility. We're going to take advantage of the footprint of the site so that the CCS plant isn't a quarter of a mile away like it is at Battery Dam. We're actually, if you saw a picture, it sort of lays on the right beside the existing coal-fired power plant, right? And so that allows you to think about having not an entire separate shift of people running the carbon capture facility, but perhaps integrated to reduce the amount of extra people you need to run that facility. And so that's kind of, that's at the highest level. So modularization, building larger, building stuff in Alberta-sized modules and having in a modular yard and bringing them to site more complete, building a larger scale. Those things all contributed to getting us to the 67% less cost. As well, and I should be fair about it, when we built Battery Dam 3, there was a lot of unknowns with the carbon capture plant. And so we built a lot of capability into the power plant to be able to survive regardless of what was happening over in the carbon capture plant. And now that we have the benefit of experience, we know that some of those things, although required for the first generation, we wouldn't probably get in the second generation. And so there's some of that as well.
Oh, you're all
So there's two components. There is a public report, which we published in November, and actually we are doing a confidential report for SAS Power and for the other funders in the study, which includes Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, J. Cole, and a few others who helped pay for the study. And that confidential report is going to be going to SaskPower before the fall. And so they may use that as part of to help inform their decision. But we can't say what they're going to do or whether they're going to factor our report into it. They certainly contributed to it, but there's no guidance in terms of when they will make a decision on that. I think the latest guidance we've seen from the president of SaskPower is that they can decide as late as 2024. I think that's getting a little late. If I were to be honest with you, I think if we're going to save the coal fleet, we might as well save all the coal fleet, and I think we should get started. That's my idea. Because I think if SaskPower has one coal-fired unit, it's got CCS on it, and everything else is natural gas, then it becomes, it's not critical mass for them to even consider keeping this. And so I think that's the danger we face, right? We know we can't go there.
Yeah, that's, I think, with the community benefits type program, Priority Saskatchewan, ensuring, coming from Alberta, here, Alberta people get to work first, rather than bringing people from Saskatchewan and vice versa. I don't think that's a secret, and I know we have a Northwest partnership that we have to work around, but I get Steve's question there, especially being a ground core. Yeah.
I think just to add on, I mean, let's look at the revenue we built in 13 and 14. We had a hard time recruiting labor. So, we had calls out across Canada for, hitting wall plate fitters was one of the major challenges. Getting people who could do, the welds on the seam line, like 3.7 inches thick, and has to have phaser ready on it. That's a very challenging application to get trained people. At least it certainly wasn't at the time. So we had calls out across Canada to try and get the craft labor inside.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Concerns? Well, I certainly learned a lot today, I'll tell you that. I'm in the industry. I am a boilermaker, went through the apprenticeship, and I still learn a ton today. So I'm learning, being in the industry every day. We need to get this out to the general public. Today, unfortunately, we did send out that it's a 2 p.m. start. A lot of people do have jobs and they work at this time. We will be continuing on with these forums, and we're going to try doing them at night and on weekends. Trying to get as many rank and file people out there, our neighbors, our people on the street, everyone. We need people to understand how this technology works, and we need to debunk the myths. We have to. I hear way too much. Even at the conversation yesterday when I said I was coming up here for this, they say, why bother? It's too expensive. It's never going to work. So after an hour-long conversation, here I am. So we need to get out there. We've got to do that. Or would you like to come up and say a few closing remarks?
Thank you, Dion, for arranging this, and Deb, Corbin, Rob, and I should introduce some colleagues of mine, some guests from the United States. First of all, Richard McIntosh. Can you please stand up? Richard is an international rep from British Columbia, and he's a colleague of mine. To his left, my right, is Cecile Conway. She's Government Affairs in Washington, D.C. Amy Windsor is the Director of Communications at Kansas City, where our headquarters is. Amy is the guru for social network and posting these things and getting the message out and taking criticisms and fighting the fight for us on our behalf and articulating and communicating effectively, because that's what she went to school for. I'm a boilermaker, and I'm pushing carbon capture because I firmly believe it's going to save this planet. And if you deny that, then you can explain that to your children and your grandchildren one day. So, anyways, thank you so much, and I really appreciate MP Kitchen and Arlo and Fast. Lori, thank you so much, and Mary Ludwig, it's so much appreciated, and we will
we've only begun. So expect to hear a lot more from us. We'll be shaking this tree. And thank you so much, and everybody have a wonderful day. Mike Pfeiffer is our business manager here locally with his rep, Alice Rogers. The pipe fitters are here, the iron workers, the millwrights, and I was told that the in-plant workforce representatives from the IBW are here. If you're here, can you please identify yourself? And so you can count they were engaged heavily with this technology, and it's much appreciated. Thank you, and safe travels.
That is my other.
Our friends from the miners, that's the root of everything. They're the ones who are providing the fuel to keep everybody else working.
For that excellent bill, that's all we have, folks. Drive safe, have a great night. Thanks to our invited guests and everyone else. Really appreciate it. And we'll continue on with these talks. Thank you.